When people mention Chinese factories, what comes to mind is chaos, noise, cheap labor, and low quality products. But when I actually walked into this Factory 11 in Shenzhen, what I saw was the complete opposite. Here, everything, every movement, every second is precisely calculated, optimized, and controlled. There is no laughter here, no idle chatter, only mechanized efficiency. In such a system, people have almost no room for error, yet they have managed to produce the world's most cost-effective and reliable civilian night vision devices. The factory we visited is called Zhongteng's factory. The footage I brought back shows the human cost behind this extreme efficiency. This is the Chinese supply chain, a cold, unfeeling machine that is nonetheless building the future. When most people think of night vision devices, they imagine high-tech, expensive products, often with military connotations. But when you look at the advertisements from those big Western brands, you might think that these devices must come from clean, sterile, dust-free laboratories in places like Japan or Germany, or even from high-end automated assembly line factories. But what is the reality? Almost none of these brands actually manufacture the products themselves. They have outsourced almost all of their manufacturing, and the vast majority of these night vision devices are made in China. In cities like Shenzhen, Dongguan, and Huizhou, there are hundreds, even thousands of such factories quietly producing the eyes of the night for the world. Why does it have to be China? The reason is actually very simple: cost, scale, and a complete supply chain system. Here, within a 100-kilometer radius, you can find all the supporting factories you need. Every step of the process is here, from optical glass to infrared sensors, from circuit board slicing to injection molding. Nowhere else in the world can you find such a dense and complete supply chain as in China. As a result, China produces 90% of the world's most affordable and cost-effective civilian night vision devices. But behind this achievement lies a huge hidden cost. And that is the truth we witnessed inside the Zhongtong factory. As we followed their factory supervisor step by step into the production area, everything was running with precision. No one was shouting, and not a single second was wasted. Everyone knew exactly what they were supposed to do and where they belonged, because any mistake by one person would mean delays for the next task, a pause in the production line, dissatisfaction from the supervisor, and even deductions in performance evaluations. Here, optical lenses are controlled with micron-level precision, and circuit boards are soldered one by one under magnification. Every piece of equipment must go through round after round of calibration before it can finally pass their tests. These workers have to repeat the same action hundreds of times, yet their speed is astonishing, and their efficiency is extremely high, so perfect that it's almost intimidating. This is why Apple and Foxconn have always kept their production lines in China, in Henan, in those massive factories filled with so many Chinese workers, factories that produce these precision instruments. Now that they've shifted part of their production to India, the yield rate there is actually much lower than in China, significantly lower. Here, basically, everyone can work without even having to think. You just need to function like a machine, executing every step and every process with precision. That really amazed me. They have managed to quantify so many details that seem impossible to measure. They have conducted in-depth quantification. For example, on a production line like this, every label you see has a precise process listed on it. For instance, the packaging specifies the exact weight, thickness, and hardness, as well as which supplier provided the hard materials. Everything is clearly regulated. Even the outer film on the packaging must use imported materials, and it must meet specific standards for hardness and stiffness. They cannot use cheaper materials from other factories. For every assembly step, there are extremely strict instructions and standards, and each time the product must pass rigorous inspection before it can proceed to the next stage of production. So as you can see, the entire production line operates with machine-like precision, leaving almost no room for error. Even when it comes to packaging, there are strict procedures for how to place the night vision device's packaging into its outer box. There are very strict step-by-step instructions for everything. As you can see, you have to put this in first, then that. Why is it done this way? It's to prevent things like your fingernails from accidentally damaging the packaging when you reach in or take something out the wrong way. So even in the face of such risks, they have implemented strict instructions and precautions, which shows just how much effort they put into achieving the highest level of standardization and assembly line production. Here, people have actually become part of the machine. This isn't a metaphor, it's reality. This is the paradox of the Chinese supply chain. It's precisely this extreme rigor and exploitation This is what creates the unparalleled cost effectiveness and reliability of these products. The system does indeed run smoothly, but at what cost? When you walk into this factory, you'll notice something. It's not filled with noise, but shrouded in silence. The workers move quickly, barely speaking to each other. One worker told me that they clock in at 7 a.m., have only a 30-minute lunch break, and finish at 5:30 p.m. If they can't keep up with orders, overtime is absolutely mandatory. The slogans posted on the walls emphasize hard work, strict self-discipline, and improving quality. And beneath these slogans is a chart detailing the punishment and reward system. The management believes in perfection, not comfort. Every delay results in a fine, and every mistake is subject to public criticism. But for many workers, even such strict requirements are still much better than life back home. Most of them come from major labor exporting provinces like Fujian, Henan, and Sichuan. They leave their hometowns solely for a stable income. In exchange, they give up their time, their right to spend weekends with their children, and sometimes even their sense of self. When we think back to situations like this, when we think of the young men and women at Foxconn, Apple's largest contract manufacturer in China, who couldn't find a sense of purpose in the factory and ended up jumping off buildings, sacrificing themselves, we are forced to reflect. The cost behind all this is enormous. And this is the invisible cost behind global supply chains. That night, as I left the factory, one question kept running through my mind. Can this system really last forever? On one hand, China's manufacturing system is truly unrivaled, the complete supply chain, skilled workers, and a speed unmatched anywhere in the world. But on the other hand, the risks are becoming increasingly apparent. Trade wars and tariffs, intellectual property issues, the constant rise in labour costs, environmental protection pressures, and the silent exhaustion and cries of the workers. What about the management? They told me they've already started investing in automation, robotic arms, AI inspection systems, automated assembly lines, all to reduce human error. But automation can't solve all the problems, because the entire system is built on human endurance. In the past few decades, China's advantages have been speed, scale, and low prices. But whether it can continue to lead in the next 10 years depends on the speed of its innovation. But in this 11th factory, I saw a very positive and proactive side of them. In addition to their strict production lines, which have produced world-class, high-quality and cost-effective products, they have also begun to invest significant capacity, effort, time and money into their own production lines, their own systems, and even their own chips and lenses. They have carried out a great deal of research and development and iteration, enabling them to independently produce all of their core components. In this way, they are actually gradually building their own brand. We saw that in their lobby. They had hung up a record of their achievements on Kickstarter from last year. In just 1 month, their sales reached about 1 to 2 million US dollars, which also proves their efforts in building their own brand. This is also a way to counter future uncertainties, since labour costs in the future can't always remain this low. So what will be left for Chinese factories in the future? Zhongtong has set a very good example for us. Either become a production channel to do OEM or ODM for others, or you accumulate your own brand. The two ends of the smile curve are always the most valuable. Take Zhongtong, for example. Factories like this are not just places that manufacture products, they create global convenience and also bear the invisible sacrifices of the world. People love affordable technology, but behind every Made in China label lies a system that trades humanity for precision. This visit to the factory changed my view of China's supply chain. It's no longer just cold, hard numbers. And the cost curve is in fact the rhythm of millions of lives, all orchestrated by the same machine. If you want to see the real China, if you want to understand the Chinese supply chain, if you want to connect with more high-quality Chinese supply chains, not the image you see in the news, but the side that supports your daily life, then I hope you'll follow, like, and share my channel. Thank you, everyone.